Hey, I'm Frank Iero, and you're watching Morgan Richards Interviews.
Hey, I'm Morgan Richards from Radio Cardiff, backstage here at the Club Can in Stuttgart, Germany. I'm joined now by a man who's found remedy and stomach aches on his journeys through world destruction. It's of course the one and only Mr. Frank Iero.
Thank you very much. That was a really good pronunciation of my name, by the way. A lot of people don't get that. That's good.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did enjoy it.
So how's things?
So far, so good, man. This is our second to last night on tour. We're taking next Sunday. We been in Germany for I'm gonna say the past 5 days, maybe or something.
Okay.
Which is strange because it's only like a 12-show tour, and usually you have to try to spread that out over a lot of different terrain. But I think we've done about 5 shows in Germany, which has been really awesome.
Okay, well, fantastic. And I'm sure you're fed up with talking it now, but it's great to see you're doing well, especially after that first crash back last year.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
Yeah, well, great to see things are going well. So Frank, of course, to start, you've made a bit of change to your solo band project as of late with the release of Parachutes, swapping Frank Iero and the Celebration for Frank Iero and the Patience now.
Correct.
Was there really a motivation behind the name change? Did you feel you needed a clear distance and separation between Stomach Aches and Parachutes, or does it just feel like a new band altogether?
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the thought process is when going into a studio with a band and writing a new record, you don't ever want to repeat yourself. There's really no point in doing that. So my game plan has always been to kind of burn down the past and reinvent the way that you approach writing music, and how can you kind of try to do things differently or build upon the ashes of the past, and if you're going to do that, if you're going to change and evolve like that, then to call the band the same name when it sounds so different seems foolish, But if you're in a band and that's your band name, then you're kind of like you're stuck. So for me, I was like, well, I'm not stuck. I can do whatever the fuck I want because it's if this is truly a solo project, then what I say goes. And if my name's in front of the band name, then there's going to be no confusion as to whose project it is. So that got my wheels turning, and I started to think about how enthusiastic I get when I start a new project. Like the naming it, trying to figure out what is it supposed to sound like, the aesthetic of it artistically and sonically, and that's some of my favorite parts of being in bands. Is the first that first couple of months of that first record.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh well, I can do that every time. Until I'm sick of it and I don't want to do it anymore.
Okay, well, fantastic. And going back to the start of the Celebration and Stomach Aches, that was really just a bunch of songs that you personally recorded to express yourself a little. After touring off that and you're transforming to a real band, were you a bit more anxious to make an actual cohesive record with the rest of the band this time around?
Yeah, but I feel like mostly for me, when I'm writing, the songs, I like to try to kind of channel the songs through me. Like if I'm inspired by something, I let it just kind of come out the way it's supposed to come out, and I try not to fuck with it too much. Like I kind of feel like it'll tell me what it needs to sound like, The songs on Stomach Aches, yeah, it was just me. I was just, I had these songs in my head, and I figured, I needed to get them out in order to kind of, regain this semblance of myself. And those songs, I felt like they felt patchwork. They needed to feel like just an art project, like you were listening in on the songs as opposed to listening to the songs, And so I wanted it to be a document of this time in my life, and it was very much me, all about me. It was a selfish record. I did it for no one else, So why would I bring anyone else in to record it, I would figure it out, and the things that I got wrong, I would, kind of maximize. I would try to use my weaknesses as my strengths and maximize that. And that was really interesting. That's why that record sounds like that, because I really feel like that record kind of sounds like no other record. And, maybe people are glad because they, but I really think it sounds the way it's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
When Parachutes was coming about, like, I knew that I was writing a follow-up record. Like, I was, now I had a label in place. Like, people were going to hear these songs. If I wanted to do it, that's what was going to happen. And so I started to write, with that in mind, knowing that I was going to kind of push myself, because I feel like when you get to that point, there's this crossroads that you have to make, this decision that you have to make, where it's like you either write and placate and write what you think people want to hear. Maybe you veil some of the stuff that's inside you so that it's not too personal and you don't put yourself out there too much. It's not too risky. Or the other side is you just fucking that's tough. Like, just soak everything in gasoline and fucking go for it. Like, you make the record that you've always wanted to make, tear your fucking soul out, and for better or worse, like, if people fucking love it, they hate it, whatever, you did it. Like, you fucking put it out there. And so that's what I wanted to do. And when I was writing these songs, they demanded way more than what I could offer, just like in my personal studio space in my basement. And so I called up the person that I knew that would push me beyond any kind of boundary that I could ever imagine. That was Ross Robbins.
Okay, great to hear. And for me, Parachutes seems to have much more melodic hooks than anything you've done prior as a frontman, but still having that raw edge. With that, do you have a clear vision of what you want a body of work to be, or do you just try and channel whatever material seems to be coming out at that separate time? Because you're always creative and seem to constantly have a plan following and a meaning to everything.
I'm glad it seems that way. I'm constantly writing. I'm constantly inspired by things. That's just the type of person I am. When I hit that wall, that creative block, I'm a miserable fucking mess. Like, way more than normal. And that those are hard times. But I tend to be pretty okay with that, because like I do this thing where when I hit a block with a certain project or something that I'm working on, I just jump to something else that's inspiring at that time, and sometimes that goes nowhere, but it opens up the door that I was locked over here. So like I just can't kind of jump back and forth. So I feel like that's why I have so many projects. But as far as like a cohesive plan about what's coming out next, or like I don't know from minute to minute where my head and my soul is going to be at. So it just kind of, like I said, it channels through. But as far as the difference, like the melodic hooks and stuff like that, I feel like maybe the change on Parachutes to from Stomachs to Parachutes, or vice versa, is that I learned a lot about doing this project from touring with the Celebration for 2.5 years. You know what I mean? When I made that record, or made those songs in my basement and didn't even know I was making a record, like, I had no idea what I was fucking doing. Like, these were these songs. I didn't know how to be a singer, really. I didn't know what range I felt comfortable in, or especially what I would feel comfortable in singing live. I didn't know how to take care of my voice. I didn't know how to warm it up. It was an instrument that I had no idea about. And then when I realized that I was going to pursue this, I found out a little bit more about that instrument and worked at, learning it, because I felt like anything else would just be faker, So, and I'm by no means like, the greatest at it, but I know a bit more now, and I feel like I know a bit more about myself in that role. Okay. So it was fun to write things that I knew were going to be enjoyable for me to create or recreate later on tour and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, cool. And Frank, just a couple more very quick things now before you go. As you mentioned, over the years you've been a part and created many different bands and projects, all having their own real identity and unique style of sound. Looking back at everything now, do you feel they're all being as important as each other, exploring different musical avenues and becoming the songwriter you are today?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I feel like Yeah, you can't have a skyscraper without a basement floor. You know what I mean? Like you need all of that, and I felt like too. Like that's why I feel when the Death Spells project was going on, and we couldn't finish a record because of scheduling and stuff like that. Like it felt like there was a hole for me. I found it strange that people couldn't hear how I got from certain point A to point B, you know, lyrically and stuff like that. That was like a missing block in time, creatively for me. And when that came out, it felt a lot more complete, you know. But yeah, I think you learn so much from playing with different people, you know, people that are way better than you, people that think about things in a totally different way. Like, you know, that's so inspiring, you know. Even like the fights that you might have with like, no, I think it should be like this, or I think it should be like that. Like that shit is a learning mechanism. Like it stretches muscles that you can't stretch anywhere else. If you're just, you know, if you're the greatest fucking basketball player on your block and you just play with, you know, your brother and you kick his ass every time, like you're not getting any better, you know. When you go to like the town over though, and like there's dudes over there that be fucking, you know, like all around the county, like you're gonna get your ass kicked, you know. And so it makes your calluses harder. It makes your brain think quicker, and it makes you react in different ways, and that's the best part about music and art.
Fair enough. And with all that, Frank, of course, for the near future, is going to be extremely busy touring this record and being on the road as much as possible, including coming back to the UK for Slam Dunk Festival in May. But what else can we really expect from yourself now coming up?
Well, so far we're booked until July. Doing some U.S. touring, Deftones and Rise Against and Thrice. Like you said, we're back over here for Slam Dunk. We're doing a headline tour in the U.S. with Dave House, and there's a couple other things in the works, but I don't like to kind of mention them too much until they're finalized. But I think it's going to be a busy year, and I think that's the best thing for us, and it's going to help the healing process.
Fantastic. Well, that's about it. Cheers, Frank, for taking time out to speak to me.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about all that craziness around the day.
No, my pleasure. Best luck now with everything, and hopefully I'll catch up with you again very soon.
I look forward to that, man.